Welcome to You Could Do It, and today we're working on the DW707. I've just bought this saw. I've put a few videos out on various things. I'm just servicing it. Anyway, I just plugged the bloody thing in. I thought I bought it as a running saw, but it won't run. Nothing. I haven't touched any electrics when I've been doing the servicing, so it's just been mechanical stuff. So I thought I might put this video up just to show you. We'll do the fault finding on this. What do we do? So I'll take you through the process. So first of all, I need to just check the continuity of this cable and everything like that. So we need to actually get this handle off. So what we need to do for that is we need to take this off, which is a left-hand thread. So you turn it clockwise to turn it off. We'll take this off. 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts there, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 6 bolts for that, and then there's 2 there. But let me just take all that off, and we'll come back. Okay, plot thickens. I just got to that position, plugged it in, and just tried it, and it works. So that suggested to me straight away that it must be where the motor was positioned. So I need to go back around the other side and check the brushes. So let's go and do that. Okay, look, so the pushes are under here, so you just got to take one of these off here. So I want to quickly take one of those off, or both of them off, and we'll just check. This is the bush here. You pull this out. Look, oh look, that's looking good. Plenty left in that one, so they're all right. Which is then tending to lean to something else. I think this bearing is knackered because it makes it makes a noise when it slows down. Oh look, I'll put that one back in there. I'll just check this one. Unlikely that one will be knackered and the other will be fine. Here, look. Yeah, look, that one's all right. That's fine. So plenty left in that one. Put that back. Right, so I'll do that. So what I'm going to do now is put the tops back on, screw those up, and I'll just check that it runs, and then I know we're all right. And then I think it looks like we're going to have to whip this motor out, or the stator out, and then change that bearing in there. I reckon once that stops, if that sticks in the right place, the motor won't start up. Because these are induction motors usually, so they don't start with it if you've got any load on them. Okay, if you listen, right at the end it makes a right racket. Yeah, it stopped dead there. Yeah, so that's actually like slightly jammed. So I'm going to have to take that motor out. So I need to turn the rate, but listen. Yeah. Okay, so I'm just going to take all that handle off, and there's videos out there how to do that, but I'm just going to basically undo those screws, take that off, undo the handle screws, and we'll take that off. I'll be back in a sec. Okay, we've got this far. I've got the belt off, and the way you get the belt off is by pulling it this way as you turn this, and it'll pop over one clip at a time. But look, I've solved the problem. This is all right, but look. This is grinding or grating, so we're going to have to get this whole motor out now. By the looks of it, the way we're going to have to get this plastic shroud, because that's what the motor in is, but we can't get that off. What we've got there. So what I'm going to have to do is take that off, and then we'll have to slide that whole thing out. So I've taken the cables out, so that'll go, and then what I'm going to do, unscrew that, and then pull that whole thing out. Back in a minute. I've done that, so I'm ready to pull that off, but while I was there, I've taken this one off. If you spin that, that's quite loud as well. So I'm probably, while we're here, I'll just replace this bearing as well. Motor out first, and then I'll sort out about taking that bearing out. But yeah, so I'm going to replace the bearings. Okay, now I'm going to undo these 2 screws here, because they look like they might be something holding this in. And this rocker here, which is out, so I'm going to undo that bolt there. I think I can pull that rocker out. I think it might be sprung loaded a little bit, but let me do that. I've undone that bolt there, and I've taken that out now, so that's out. So I've held that there tight there, and I've undone this nut here. Now that's obviously again a left-hand thread. Just remember that to undo it, you've got to do it clockwise. Okay, next you need a long Phillips head, and there's a screw down there, there, and there. my thing's not good enough. It's right the way down there. I've got one out. They're like that long, so they're right down there. So you've got to get those 3 out. Indeed, once you push that pin down, and then this will come out like that. Take this out. All right, and you should see the split pins. Splits this down the bottom there, so we need to take that back out. And obviously when we reassemble it, we push the pin in and push the split pin over the top. So let me grab that. Once they're out, then you need to just gently tap on there, and this whole assembly here will start coming out. So I just need to actually pull on the rest of it to get it out. Here you are, look. Starting to come right out now. There you are, look at that. Right, and that's telling me it's been running on that. Cool. It's been grinding on that. Let me just get the vacuum cleaner, vacuum up in there, and then we'll come back on the trying to work out what we need to replace. Okay, that's all right. Look, your bushes down the bottom there have sprung out, so you can't just go and push that motor back in because you'll snap your bushes. So what we need to do before we assemble, we need to undo those two and take the bushes back out. But we're not at that stage yet, so I'm just going to leave them like that. So one of my bolts are still there, so make sure you push those out and don't lose them. They're the 3 mounting bolts, and then you had the 2 there. So it's basically 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, look, there's a plastic shroud that comes over that back bearing there, like that. That's so it's presumably it's rubber mounted in the thing. Now that one isn't too bad, but if you actually look, where's my torch? There we are. It's a 6000 RS bearing, so I can get just go online and get one of those. Let's get like a decent NGK or something like that. Now to take this bit off, I'm going to need to undo it here and here, which will take this plastic cover off which holds the fan. Now the bearing isn't too bad, so maybe some gunk or something got stuck in there, but what we're going to do now to get that out there is we're going to tap there, and that should push the shaft out of the bearing. Okay, look, I've knocked that out and I've kept the nut on there to protect the end of that shaft. Now I need to just take that nut off, and I bolt out, and I can take the thing out. Okay, I believe that's very difficult with one hand. So then this comes off, goes there, and now we have to bear it. We have that like that. So we'll clean that up. We'll look at trying to get that bearing off, and this bearing in here is in here. So we've got to get some circlip pliers there and take that circlip out, and then should be able to tap that bearing out from here. Okay, got that out like that. Now I should just be able to turn that over, tap that bearing out. Just spinning that on there. You can hear that. That bearing is completely shot. So these saws don't. I mean, you wouldn't have thought the bearings have gone when it ran, but they obviously have. And you put some new bearings on there, and that saw will run really quietly, really quietly. So that actually is in relatively good condition compared to this one, which is absolutely shot. So yeah, we're getting there. So use the circlips again to take that circlip out, and then this you basically tap out from the bottom there, which I've done, and that comes out. And actually what's underneath at the bottom there is that little washer there, so little spring washer there, so don't lose that. If you want to hear what a knacker sound, look at this, listen to this. See, that's a really noisy knacker than this one. That's knackered. That's needs replacing as well. So now we've done it. Then basically we've got all the bearings out. So that's done. All we've got to do now is get this one off here, which I'll need a little puller to pull that off. So let me go and see what pullers I've got, and I will be back. Okay, I hadn't got a bearing puller that could get down that tight, so I don't recommend it. But if you put this in the vise, I just put that in the vise and squeezed it tightly in the vise, and that cracked that ring off. So I've now just got to And I'm just going to pull that one off, but at least I've got some sort of surface to pull on. So, right, I got that off. What I actually had to do was use the angle grinder. So it was on there. I used the angle grinder because it's a very sort of smooth edge, and the pullers were just pulling off it. So I just used my angle grinder around there to make it a bit sharper. Don't go too far, as you'll go into the centre there. But I just went around and give it a bit more of a sharper edge, and it just pulled off nicely. So all the bearings are off. So now what we're doing, just got to wait for the bearings to come. These arrived in the post. So I've got all nice new Timken bearings. There's 4 bearings there. Just let me get them out. So the one for the back, and I've got 3 Timken bearings for the rest of it. So what we can do now is start putting these bearings back on here. Let's make sure we remember which one goes on where. So I got all 2 RSC3s, which are good quality tolerance bearings. This one looks like it comes. This is a 608 2RS, but that's actually looks like it's a Chinese one. Anyway, that's the back. That's the bearing that goes on the back of here. So it hasn't got a lot of force on it because the main bearing at the front here. So I've got that goes on the back there. Now the biggest bearing is the one that goes in here, which is the one obviously that the blade is on and takes a lot of the force. And the next one is the one for the motor. So the first one, so the main bearing for this shaft is the 6003 2RS. I've got that out of the packet there. She's there. And that fits on this end here. So I'm just going to put a tiny little bit of grease on that. Then I'll slide that on there. And then we'll put this one here, which is the 608, onto here. So let me just try and get that. I might need to get a socket just to gently tap that on. Well, that's on there nicely. I just found a socket that fits over there. Make sure that the socket only hits the inner race. Yeah, so you want to push that in on the inner race. Yeah, to make sure it's a tight fit on there. And I just gently tap that down. But if the socket's too big, you'll hit this the black cover there, and you'll damage all that. Okay, so that's on there fine. So now we'll do exactly the same process for one at the back, which is the 608 2RS. So let me get that out and I'll put that on. Right, that one's on there. So listen to that. Silent. That's how it should be. Do you know how noisy the old one was? And then that one's done. Silent as a whistle. Okay. So we need to then put this back in, and I just want to make sure I'm going to put the keyway in there first, and we can slot that back into here. Take this clip out, put that in there, and then she's in. So let me do that. That's in there now. I actually just used I nipped that up in the vise just to push that in gently, just get it started, and then you just need to check that you can get, yeah, that goes on there fine like that. So I can pull that off now. Right, so now what we can do is put this back in the, so now I'm going to take that clip out of there, and then we'll slide that back in. Now remember, I've cable tied that up there so I didn't forget it, but there's a little spring washer which goes on the bottom of that, so I'll do that. Right, I've got that out there with the circlips. Let's put this one down the bottom there, make sure that sits, yeah, that sits flat on the bottom there, and then we should be able to slide that in there. And I'll need to gently tap that down. Okay, I need 2 hands to do that. That's in there nicely. And what you might find sometimes when you tap that in is that the bearing actually comes back up on here a little bit. In other words, you can't get the circlip in. So what you then need to do is gently tap the bearing back down that way, making sure, because at that point that sticks out, so you can have that sitting on something, and then gently tap down on that inner race there, and that will push the bearing down so you can get the circlip in. So now I'm going to put the circlip back in. It's seated in there properly, which it is, and that's lovely. Look at that, sweet as. Right, so now we can put the motor on, motor back in. Yeah, put the bearing in here first, and then I'll push the motor through. Okay, let me get the bearing for that one, and that should be the 6201 RS. 262012 RS. I'll put that bearing in. Don't remember these two little bits which we need for the motor. Now I've taken that out of there. We'll put that aside. That was the bolt that went on the end of it. Let's not lose that. And there's some washers underneath that, so don't lose those. Okay, we'll stick that in our little magic tray for the moment. So now I think I need to put this one on here. Okay, the fan's on there like that. So this is the bearing that's going to go into there. So the way we do that, let's get rid of the motor for a second. Turn that upside down like that. We'll take that circlip out. We'll push that bearing in. It's out. Now we can push this bearing in here. I'm going to need to tap that with on that outer edge. Don't you try not to do it on the inner one. Do it on the outer edge there, gently, and I'll push that in. I'll use a socket probably just to push that in. All right, so I've pushed this one in. So what you need to do is find a socket that fits in that there. And I'll put it on another socket on the back there. So the socket's resting on there like that. Hang on, I need to put it somewhere a bit higher up so that you can see. So I put that up there like that. I set that in there like that. Yeah. There we are. That's flat like that. And then you can tap it in with the other socket because you want to make sure you hit it on the outer ring. So that's in there nicely. So now I can put the circlip in. Nicely with the circlip. So now what I'm going to do now is actually I'm going to put this bearing on here, on the end here, while this is free. Otherwise it's going to be all set in here and it's going to be a bit more difficult to handle. So that is the 6002 RS C3. We'll push that on there, and then we'll be ready to put that right back in. Okay, so let me push this one back on. So that's pressed onto there nicely. Again, I just used a socket. Turn that upside down. Have a socket that fits that the right size, and then tap that down. That's on there. So we're ready to put this in. So you've put your fan on. We can then turn this around, right? And what we can do is we can put that through there, over the top, and tap it down. We need to find a socket that hits on the inner race. Don't push, sits on that inner race, and then we can tap that down, and the whole thing will be seat. So let me go and do that. Right, so that's in there. So that's all running nicely. Okay, so if we turn it back over here, we can then put this cover on here. So we'll take my bolts out here. So that's screwed on there nicely. So we're almost ready. I was wondering whether you could actually put the belt on and everything, but I think we need to get to those screws there and there, and that will cover it. So wait till we screw that assembly back in. So it looks like we're all getting ready. What I did do, for anyone that's noticed, is that I've just cleaned that up with a bit of emery. And then we're now ready to start putting that back in the casing. Okay, you've got the casing, you can see how filthy it is. I'm tempted to clean it now before I start putting everything back in. You need to take out your brushes, so undo those two caps on both sides, take your brushes out so that you don't trap your brushes. And then down there, look, you make sure you've got your little, there's a rubber, where my finger is there, look, that's a rubber in there, make sure that's in there. So that's the little rubber. The idea with that is that rubber goes over like that. So maybe we just leave it like that, and then we'll push that whole motor down. Push it all down into there. So let me do that. There's a German going on in the background. So okay, look, that slots in there. Make sure it pushes in. It will hit that rubber and it will stick out by about nearly a centimetre, and then you've got to push it and it will go back into that rubber. So now we can put those two bolts in there, which assemble it in that side, and then we can put the 3 bolts on the side here. Okay. So I'll put the three bolts that go down. There's one that goes there, one that goes there, one that goes there. I've screwed those all down nice and tight, and then I've tightened up those 2 there. This obviously will spin anyway, but then just check that spins. That spins nicely. So now what I can do, I'll start putting the brushes back in. So what we'll do is we'll take these caps off, and then we'll put these brushes back in. And then from this side, and we'll need to put that little clip in there, which we'll do. But let's just put these brushes in. Okay, now for these. So I'll put that pin in there, look, like that, and then I can put that clip on that side. You have to rotate it sometimes until the pin will go in, and then you know where you're in the right place. So let me put that little clip on there, and that'll stop that pinging back out. Okay, it made it a bit easier, just put a bit of a tape around there so I can do that. And I've put that clip in there. So that's done. Put the cover back on. So that's all good, that's all good. So now, we can start looking to put this back on the, oh no, actually I can put the gears on and then put it back on the slide. You have to tap that on there because it's such a tight fit, but you can't do that without taking your plastic cover off here and putting something metal or hard underneath that, so that when you tap this, you're not actually pushing against the bearing or knocking it, because you might knock the shaft back out that way and damage the plastic. So support that end on something and then you can tap that in. Now I can put the nut in there and tighten that up. Okay, so that's on. This one just goes on, it's just loose. And then to get the thing is just get it over 1, 2. I'll put it on that one and then just rolled it over onto that one. So now what we're going to do is we move this and we get it over one clip at a time. We just keep doing that. So let me just do a bit more and you'll see that'll go down further. I've got that down to the lights. You see, basically what I did to find the easiest way was to go push this way, pulling that down like that, you get it over one clip and then go back that way. So I've got one more to do here. Look, you see this one's not on the edge, so just got one more like that. Careful you don't nip your fingers on the last one, look. There. She's on. That is tight. Lovely. Okay, so that's on. What we're now going to do is we'll put this little rocker switch back in here. That was a bit rusty, so I've actually just rubbed a bit of emery on there just to smooth that up. Then that, because I'm actually going to put a bit of grease on that, a little bit on that side, and a little bit of grease on that side. Okay, that's in there. That pin actually just pushes in. That's held in by the plastic, so that just pushes in there. So we've got that little thing here we've got to put in now. We go and find that bit. So that goes in there. Spring just sits on that little bit there. Look, what we can actually do is slide that on the slide now. So I'm going to just quickly put that base together loosely. That's in there, that's in there, that's on all right. I've put those in, I've strapped that up tight. Make sure that's not too twisted because that can get twisted. Handle's in, that's in. So now we just need to thread the handle, thread that through that little slot there, then connect up the spring, and we can pop the handle on, which I'm going to do now. So that's all done. Check it all works, and also that this one here works freely. It's good. Now we can start putting this back on. So I'll just screw that up there, and then we can put this cover back on. See, I've cleaned that up, and look at that. That's lovely. That's a lot smoother. And there was also, I've cleaned this surface up because there's a lot of paste on that. So that the grey paste, which is obviously grease, that has over many years has, you know, with some aluminium grinding dust, it's basically just become a paste, which was why that was very stiff as well. So look, I've cleaned that all up, and then what I'll do is I'll put a bit of grease on there when we assemble the next bit. Okay, look, I've cleaned that up. You can see that's a lot cleaner on the outside surface. That just means that that's gonna run in there a lot easier. Look. So I'm just gonna put a tiny little bit of grease on there. And then we'll put that back in. Okay, that's all nice now. Look, pull the lever, and that's good. If you tighten that up too much, you'll nip this up and it won't turn. So, look, make sure that moves easy freely in there. That's done, and that clip's working here. Look, that clip there's working properly now. So that's locking it there. Remember to put this bit on first. It's in there like that, and then we put the blade on and the other bit. Okay, she's all on. Okay, so we've replaced the belt. Let's listen. Start her up. Oh, that's so much quieter. I mean, that really has made a huge difference. So if you want to be working with that inside and anything, that you don't even need to wear ear protectors or anything like that. That's really quiet. So we've replaced the bearings. You can do it. Hope you've liked the video. Please subscribe if you like it. Any comments, send me a comment. I'll do my best to reply. You can do it.